Hello, hello. Hope you're doing okay today. Let me know how the audio is for anyone who's already listening this morning or this afternoon or wherever you're at. Today's challenge is definitely going to be a beginner challenge. So for those of you, especially who are newer to HTML and CSS and JavaScript, this will be good for you. But even if you're hopefully somewhat familiar with them, hopefully this could still be enjoyable to do together. The way I typically do these is I don't think about them ahead of time. I don't look at them ahead of time. I just kind of run with them live. And that way you get to kind of hear my thinking, and I get to actually test my knowledge for real rather than just what I think I know, which is usually what happens when you don't have anything kind of pressure on you. But hope you're doing all right today. Let me know if you're struggling at all with any of the audio, video, if the connection seems good, all that kind of stuff. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move stuff over. So there we go. Good to see you officially. This is a challenge from WebDevDaily, I think is what it's called. This is a project right here that you can jump in on. Let me just double check. Yeah, WebDevDaily.io. And this is the challenge I was thinking of. It was just a recent one, so I figured that would work well. And it's all in the editor, or like in a web browser editor. So you can obviously download the Figma file itself and then do it on your own. But since it's supposed to be done here in the editor and I can submit it here, you can see the challenge that I've submitted. I'll go ahead and do that. All right, so you just click get started here, and then basically they walk you through how to kind of do the challenge. There's a couple toggles down here. So right here you can toggle between the actual picture, or you can use a keyboard shortcut, which is Command X on Mac or Control X on Windows. You can adjust things like font editor size and all that kind of stuff. So maybe I can come in here and make that a little bit bigger for you, and then save it, move this around. That's pretty much it. If you want to actually use the Figma file, you can click this button right here and it will download that Figma file. So if you wanted to do that, in this case, there's not a whole lot that we'll need to do. I'm not super going to be focused on like every pixel has to be absolutely perfect because they've only given me one size for this. So we're just going to do our best and try to think through more like UI UX challenges rather than spend all of our time nailing down each individual pixel. Hey, welcome. I'd love to know where you're watching from, those of you who are on right now, and let's go ahead and jump in. And like I said, this is going to be more of a beginner challenge, but I hope it's a help to many of you. All right, so first thing we're going to do is get rid of all this stuff. I guess one of the questions to ask is if we should do Tailwind or just normal CSS. So that is one thing to think about. Let's see if I can get this thing to toggle back and forth for me. Okay, here we go. I'm thinking the first thing we're going to do is let's go ahead and get, did they actually give you fonts for this? They don't, I don't think, and I don't have it downloaded on my computer. So we'll just use like whatever font they already have. Again, I'm more focused on UX this time around than trying to get every pixel perfect, since it's not that challenging of a design overall. So why don't we just think through kind of what we have. So I'm going to zoom in a touch if it'll let me. It doesn't seem like it'll let me. So that's all right. Let's pull it up over here. Let's just kind of think through what we have here. So kind of structure, before I get started, I want to go ahead and start breaking this down into boxes. This is kind of the way I think. So if I were to grab like this little crosshair here, obviously this is going to be my outer box, and the whole window is going to be the kind of the main body. But inside here, we've obviously got sections. So we've obviously got stacked sections like this, but we can see that we've got a section here and a section here, and same thing for all these three. And they're kind of grouped together, right? So I can think how I might want to lay these out. Now, generally, I would do these with flex and justify between. So that way I can set these side by side, push them all the way to the sides, and kind of no matter how long these texts are, they should line up that way. I would just need some kind of max width on this right here on the actual form itself. And I'm assuming this is some kind of modal that pops up and is a form that you would submit in that way. All right, same thing here. So I'd have the same kind of thing here. Now, because this right here is not a standard toggle, even though this is like a checkbox in as far as a form is said, like a HTML form, I'm going to need to generate like UI that looks like this, but behind the scenes, a checkbox is going to be working on that. The other thing is for all these are probably going to be like actual like input. What are they called? What are those things called? Where you can choose between them. Radio buttons. There we go. So these will be like a set of three, and then obviously a button down here. So not a lot of confusing layout, but once again, these radio buttons aren't the ones you typically get. So I'll probably have a radio button, a fake radio button, which is right there, and then the actual label. And that way, if you click on the label, it'll check the real radio button, and then this UI will get toggled. Same thing for these down here. So I don't think we're going to do anything confusing with JavaScript. I might just like handle what is clicked based on what a user does. Maybe we'll think through that. So basically, we've got a stacked section, 1, 2, 3, and then here we've got some flex containers. So just kind of thinking through what we've got so far. So maybe the first thing let's do is just kind of get the core HTML in here, and we'll obviously have to come back and do a few more things here. I don't know exactly where the main tag would be. Again, this is probably some kind of like pop-up. So what I should probably do is just come over here. Let's bump this up even a little bit more so it makes it a little easier to see. So let's just kind of grab these one at a time, and I actually can, let's see if it'll let me. There we go. Come on. All right, so let me just grab this, and let's say that this is like an H2. I'm not really sure what this would be, but let's go ahead and say that. So we'll say H2, and then I'm going to grab each of these here, and I'm just OCRing these, and that way I don't have to sit here and copy them here out for you. All right, so we'll do the same thing here. I do get asked a lot how to learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, since I've kind of focused on those beginner things on my channel and just kind of the core. Honestly, a lot of it is just testing yourself over and over and over again, because usually you think you know, and then you do a challenge like this, and you're like, how do I do that again? And so that's a good thing to be tested on. So again, this is going to be in some kind of grouped section, and we will probably give this some kind of special class and use the same grouping for the bottom section here as well, because they seem about as evenly spaced apart right there, but we'll get to that in a second. So like I said, we're going to have a couple things in here. Each of these, see if it'll let me, get multiple, that's good. Each of these here will be inside of their own section, and they will each have the paragraph, and then they'll also have the actual like checkbox itself. So again, this would be a type of checkbox as far as HTML is concerned. However, we're going to create a little UI tag as well. So we're going to put all those things inside of a div, and that way we can control a little bit more in the CSS. So we'll come in here, and we're going to have three things. We'll have the input. See if it'll let me. There we go, type of checkbox. And then we'll give this a name of whatever the thing happens to be. So like dark mode will be the first one, or we could say theme. How about that? And then next is where we're going to have our fake checkbox. Now you can do this in a couple different ways. Because we're going to need to have this as a self-closing tag. This next one, I'm thinking I'll probably just do a div here, and this will be our fake checkbox, which we'll do it here in a second. And then next we'll have a label, and this will say whatever the thing actually is. So let's see. No, I don't need a label. That's what this first one should be. So let's switch this around here to label. Label. Okay. I think that's good. Let's go ahead and just point this to our 4 here, and we'll do like theme for all of them, and then come back in here and change this up. So this also needs an ID of theme. I'm putting a name here because we're going to capture all the form submission here with a by grabbing the form data, and we need a name to do that. So I'll try to remember to show you that. All right, so I think we're good there. We'll do the same thing down this way. We'll call this like notifications and ID of notifications. Get some nice autocomplete here too, which is great. Notifications. And same thing down here, we'll just say like focused. And focused. And an ID of focused. All right, I think we're good there. So that's that kind of upper section. And if I come over here and toggle it, you can see that that's what we've got. Settings, dark mode, desktop, notification, and focused. All right, so let's go ahead and collapse this just to kind of keep stuff organized and come down below here. So we've got this next section will be conversation view. I'm guessing there's some kind of like, these are just general settings, so we don't really need a heading there, but I guess we could add a heading if we wanted to. I'll go ahead and do this as an H3 eventually, but I guess we should probably do a div here first. And then we'll come in here to our H3. And here we'll say conversation view. And then we're going to do the same kind of thing where we'll have some kind of radio group. So yeah, so let's go ahead and have an input. Wasn't there like a, yeah, here we go. There we go. Now range radio. Come on. Help me out here. All right, there we go. So we'll call this like newest or on top. How about that? And on top. And then this will be a label as well. Like I said, all these should be probably grouped because we're going to make a fake checkbox. And that's what I think I was thinking about last time. So like this, a fake radio button. So we'll have that as the first item. Next is the fake thing. So what we're going to do is use a sibling selector and say whenever this is selected, go ahead and select the next sibling and change the CSS in some kind of way. So this will be our fake checkbox, our fake radio button here. And then finally, we will have our label down this way. All right, and this will just say newest on top, right? Okay, and then let's go ahead and repeat this a couple times. And we'll just say on bottom. That's cool. You can select Command D and it'll actually select those. And then here will be bottom as well. Oops, no, that was good. Back here will be off. So we'll just say off. Newest off. This just says off. All right, let's just double check ourselves here. That looks all right so far. And then we'll come back over here. Since these are going to be the same, we should be able to just copy this down right here. Like that. And say conversation view, reading panel. All right, so this is going to say reading panel. And then we'll just say on right. Shown on right. I'm guessing this is supposed to be show, so we'll do that. Show on the bottom. It should just say bottom, I think. So maybe we should also change those to say show on right, show on bottom. That's not super descriptive. Let's say like reading panel bottom, reading panel right, something like that. Show on bottom, and then this will be reading panel off. I'll go ahead and grab that and paste this here. Okay. This will just be called hide. And then finally below all of this, we'll have another thing. It's just a link that points to nowhere and says view all settings. All right. So we should have everything we need as far as the HTML in here. Now we can handle this in a couple different ways. It's not really a form you're submitting. So they're more like individual checkboxes. So I'd probably just handle this with JavaScript. So we could wrap it in some kind of form. But probably what we should do is at least have like a card or something like this. Maybe let's put it inside of a module, or not a module, a modal tag, a dialog. There we go. The only disadvantage of live streaming when I do, which is like literally the first thing I do when I wake up, and it's very early in the morning. OCR is top tier. Yeah, seriously, I hate copying stuff or writing it back out. But the only trouble in doing that is that my brain isn't always working at the beginning of the stream, but hopefully by the end of the stream, it'll be working. So I'm going to save it. That will hide our toggle. But now what we're going to do is have some extra fun in addition to whatever it was supposed to be. So let's go ahead and have a button here. And this button is just going to say like view settings or something like that. There we go. And then let's give this a class. And I think I'm just going to use CSS. So let me come back over here. And font family, I think I can use any of these. So let's use, to me it looks like, what does that look like? I mean, when in doubt, just use enter is kind of the way I think. So let's just do that. There we go. So that should work. Let's also, let me grab the befores and let me grab the afters. And we'll say margin 0, padding 0, box sizing border box, which maybe that was already set on there. I'm not really sure, but either way. All right, so now let's go ahead and get a couple styles in here. And the way I typically like to do this is usually it's in a separate file for me, but I like to declare a bunch of stuff on the root, and those basically become the building blocks I use. So if you think about it like playing with Lego or something like that, you're actually creating all the blocks you're going to use first, and then you go out and use them. So it takes a little bit more time because you're not like generating them as you go, but it's ultimately more extensible because you can use it in a bunch of different components. So let's come over here. If it will switch for me. All right, we're going to grab several things. First of all, let's go ahead and think through some colors. So, I mean, I think if we're going to have dark mode, we should have like actual dark mode. That's what I think. Tail and CSS CD. Oh, you're right. That is there. Good call. Honestly, though, I'm not upset about that. The only trouble is we're going to create some of our own utility classes. So let's get rid of that. So in other words, what they're doing here is they've already added Tailwind here for us. So that's why, number one, why we get access to that initial clear that was there. The other thing is we've got these fonts being pulled in. We've also got icons if we need those, which I don't think we will. So I guess we can also get rid of that if we want to. So this family here was also brought in. Maybe we just bring in, what was it? Enter, because I think that could be what it is. I don't have this. I didn't grab the Figma file ahead of time, so we're going to call that good enough. All right, so let's kind of think through what we're going to need. And since we're going to want both light mode and dark mode, here's what we're going to do. We're going to have some default light colors, and then we're going to have some default dark colors. And then let's come down here and like set our default. And then eventually, let's see, down this way, we'll have like actual theme for toggle switch or something like that. That way we can go with the system default. We can allow the user to choose if we want. Maybe we'll even store that in local storage. So we might go a little extra since the UI isn't super hard here. But first of all, let's go ahead and grab the basic colors. And because we're going to have both light and dark mode, we need to think through this, like the naming in a way that works. So we'll have like a background color here. So I'm not sure what we'd call that, maybe muted since it's the same as this. Then we'd have our background, which would probably be this color, typically I would think. We're going to have our text color, is I think what I would call that. And then it looks like we've got a fourth color there that might be whatever that thing is there. So we'll grab that in time. So let's go ahead and grab this. And I've got a color picker, again, just to speed us up a touch. And we're going to call this muted. And then let's also do background here as well. And I'm guessing this is just like normal, like straight up white. So I don't like doing that. So let's go ahead. Let's do a couple things. First of all, I'm going to switch these over to HSL. And you'll notice that they're not actual HSL. It's like fake HSL. And again, I just got a little utility on my computer that does that for me. And that way I can do something more like 98.9 or whatever. So it looks more themed than just a straight up white. So we'll do that as well. And then let's see what else we've got. Dark mode. What do I say? Text. Let's go ahead and grab this. And once again, we're going to switch this over. And then finally, we've got whatever this color is here. Can I zoom in here like crazy? I don't know what that does to your screen. And let's grab, oh my. Let's grab whatever this in-between color is. I'm going to say that that's good. Come on. There we go. All right. So we'll do the same thing there. Oh yeah, that zooms in for you too. So out this way, we'll call this like secondary or something like that. I'm not sure what to call this. How about we do text muted, because it's kind of that darker color. All right, now we need to actually set these. So what we'll do is for each of these, I'm going to actually append on the end of these the term light, like that. And that way I know these are my light mode colors. And that's what this was supposed to be anyhow. Then we'll come down here and do the same thing for dark. So obviously we'll switch these up to where they say dark like this, and then we need to switch these around some. It's not always great to do like a straight out switch, but in this case, maybe just to kind of keep stuff moving in the right direction. Let's go ahead and take our text, and we're going to set this as our muted color. And then let's take this muted color and set this as our background color. And then let's take this light color and we'll set this as our text color, and probably honestly darken it a good bit. So maybe we come to like, I don't know, 85, something like that. And then what else did I have? My muted, light. I think I switched everything around. We'll see in a second here. So then what we're going to do is set our background, and by default we're going to set this to our light background. So we'll say background of light. And I didn't mean to wrap that in a var. I meant to wrap that in an HSL, because this is not HSL yet. It's just the numbers that will make up HSL. But by doing it this way, we can come at any time we want to in the future and do like 0.2, and it will create some opacity for us. So that's what I typically like to do as well. So let's grab each of these, and we'll have muted like that. And then we'll also have text, and then we'll also have text muted. Okay, I think we're set there. Now let's actually use it in real life so you can kind of see what we're doing, since we haven't really shown that yet. So if I come down here, I can now say background color. And what I'm going to do is grab my background like that. And this will point then to this light version right now, right? So if I come over here and we toggle this back and forth, you can see that if I change this to text, it should, oh, come on, should change it over this way. So you can see that. So let's go ahead and move this back to background. Actually, before I do that though, what we can do now is, I messed this up because I don't actually want to set it here. I want to set it down here. So now when I invoke this, I can say HSL, and I can come in here and say like 0.2, and it will eventually, there we go. You can see how I can actually get opacity live essentially. And so it gives you more flexibility when you're building stuff out if you just define the HSL here and then basically allow yourself to invoke it and wrap it in HSL down below. You have to write HSL every time, but you can just do a keyboard shortcut, and that makes it easy enough. All right, so we've got the background here of, we're going to actually use the muted color. Actually, I'm going to use the background color, and then we'll use the muted when it pops up, when the modal pops up. And then we can say our text is HSL of our text. All right, so we should be set to go now. We've got the background set, and this is our color, not our text. So the button doesn't inherit that quite yet, so maybe let's also do, yeah, let's just do the reset here. So we'll say the button tag needs to have font inherit, background none, and I don't know, something else. There we go, border none. All right, so now what we can do is style this however we want. I should probably also do a cursor pointer. So let's go ahead and work on that button next, just to kind of show how these colors are going to work in real life, and then we'll work on the rest of these themes here. Color scheme here also needs to be light to start with, and that will give us things like the toggles and stuff like that will automatically be themed the correct way. So let's come in here to our button. That was the class I think we gave our button, at least we should have. Let's see, yeah, right there. Okay, so now we can come in here and just set a few things on it. So let's set the background color here, and we'll have HSL, and we'll wrap this in, I don't know, what do we want to do? Let's do the muted dark. Why not? Okay, so now we've got that color. That seems a little intense. text muted. That's what I wanted. Text muted like that. All right, there we go. And then let's set the color here to, let's set it to our text. Or actually, we'll probably need to set it to our background just for contrast. And maybe we should actually just set this to our text. We'll just invert the two. I'm going to do that all day, I think. All right, padding. This is why I usually use Chrome when I'm live streaming. But I use Arc for honestly everything else and can't really go back at this point. The other thing I want to do here is set up some other defaults. So maybe just to show what this is going to look like, let's finish out this toggle. So I'm going to grab this here, and we'll also have a dark mode. So media, we'll have prefers, not going to give it to me. Color scheme, dark. I forget how this is done. Let's say dark like this. Then I'm going to grab my root, and I'll say change all these to say dark, like that. Okay, so I don't think this is right. Let's do prefers, color scheme. Where are we at? Okay, so I was close. Make sure I got that. Okay, so we come back here. So it's just a colon. All right. All right, so now we've got this here. That should be set. I guess. Yeah, I want to set that in the root. I think that's all right. Okay. So now if I'm in dark mode or if I'm in light mode, if I switch my machine, there's light mode. And here's dark mode, which I somehow already messed up. Text muted. Text should be text of dark. Let's just come back up this way and make sure I've got everything I need. So I set my text on this button here to the background. So let's just double check that this is actually working. So if I change this to like 45. Huh. Text dark should be that 85. Text dark, color scheme dark. So it is picking these up. I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong here. Let's get rid of these. Okay, so there we go. Somehow the button is in the back. Not sure what's going on there. Let's see this background color of my body. Missing the percentage in the final third of the color. Ah, thank you. Right here. Thank you. Okay. It's the little things. All right, so there we go. Horrible contrast so far, because we'll need to change that around, it looks like. This should be text, and then what we probably just need to do is darken this a bit. So maybe something like that. That's too intense though over here, so let's back that off, and we'll call something like that good. Okay, so there we go. So now you can see kind of the difference between those two. So I can toggle my machine just with the keyboard shortcut back and forth, and you can see it basically is going to toggle between these. So what it's doing is it's using this by default, which is our light scheme, and then if our machine is set to prefer color scheme dark, we can set this. Now, we can also set this up to where it will then be on like a, we could have like a data theme equals light mode or something like that, in which case we would then move all this like this, and we would just set this on everything. So by default, this being kind of out in the open, it's already going to set it on the theme or like the HTML itself. So I should be able to come in here. Let's actually set this to dark. And then I should be able to come in here and do this again. And we can set this to light. Like that. If I save this, nothing much should happen. But basically, I should be able to come in here now. And like on the HTML do like data theme. I should be able to set this to light mode. And it should go to light. Or I can set this to dark. Come on. And it should go to dark. All right, there we go. Let me go ahead and just say change this keyboard shortcut so I don't keep doing this, since that's how I have to save it. Show sidebar. Let's come in here and let's just do like that or something. No, I can't do that. What can I do? That'll work. Okay. At least I won't keep opening and closing the sidebar. All right, so you can see how now we can set this up. And then even if I switch my machine to light or dark, it won't affect this because this is going to override anything else just because of the way that the CSS is set up. So again, if I come back over this way, you can see how the CSS is set up to where these are the defaults. So whether or not they're in light mode or dark mode. And then what's overriding that is if I happen to have a data theme set on the HTML. So again, not really part of the project, but I figured I might as well have a little bit of fun. All right, so we've got the color set up. Let's go ahead and set up some utilities. Again, since we're doing this kind of from scratch, if you're used to something like Tailwind, you might be like, why am I writing my own Tailwind? Well, the reality is you get more control over it if you write it all in your own CSS. So you're just kind of thinking through this in components and setting this up. Hey, morning, John. I am enjoying the tool, yeah. I know you've got some new things coming as well, so thanks for putting up with me using it right before you publish some updates. But right now we're kind of going off script and not really doing what the thing is supposed to be, but we'll get around to it. Let's do some sizing here. And there's a couple things you can do here. I like to use a website called utopia.fyi just because it gives you like nice spacing and you can set it up to where it actually changes depending on the size of your screen. So that's what I typically like to do. So for instance, if you come in here and you use clamp, you can see that we've got different sizings already kind of set up for us automatically. This is a more extreme change as well, but I'm just going to grab this right here. I don't know, this is probably getting too intense for this, but I will use this for the font sizing. So we'll go ahead and do that. So let me just grab all this right here. So this is the same kind of thing for fonts. You're basically saying, here's the smallest, and here's the type scaling I want. I want it to start at 18 pixels, etc. Same thing here for the biggest. And then this clamp property, all this does is say, hey, this is going to be the smallest it ever is. This is going to be the size it tries to be, and this will be the largest it ever is allowed to be if you're set on this individual variable. So let's go maybe ahead and do the, yeah, I think we'll just do that. So let's come in here and do font size first. So we'll go font size, and we'll just go ahead and paste that in. And I typically like to set these up a little bit differently. So I'll say like font size, and this would be like 2x small. Font size for all these. So let's just go ahead and grab all these like this. We'll say font size, and this will be extra small. This will be small. This will be medium, large. I don't know that we'll even need all these. Extra large, 2XL, and we'll do 3XL. All right, so we can use these throughout, and it will basically adjust depending on the size of our viewport. All right, the other thing we'll need is sizing. So let's do the same thing here. We'll just do size. Yeah, that'll work. 2x small will be, we'll do like 2 pixels, and then we'll just go up by 4 each time, just to keep it a little bit more consistent on the spacing. Again, I did not open the Figma file here, so actually let's just maybe double it. Oh man. Now I'm really messing stuff up. Too many keyboard shortcuts. All right. So let's go 8. We'll go up to 2 and then we'll go up. How about that? I think this might even be how Tailwind is set up anyhow. And again, just to kind of get the thinking out instead of just using Tailwind, I'm just going to leave it like that since I already messed it up. All right. And then I'll come here. Let's do small, medium, large, extra large, 2XL, and 3XL. Again, I don't know that I'm going to need any of those, but you never know. Okay, so now that we've got these set up, we can use them throughout. So that's what we were going to do next. So let's come down here to the button. And again, we've kind of created our Lego blocks up here for sizing. We've created them for font sizing, and now we can use them in the actual design down below. So we'll come down here and we'll grab our size. Let's start with size medium and var size. Let's do large side to side. See how that looks. Maybe. What did I mess up here? How about that? Okay. Good enough for me since this isn't even something we're supposed to be doing. We'll say display of grid and place items center. So obviously, like, I think to go back to the Tailwind CSS discussion, a lot of people really like Tailwind, and I get that. But the only thing it really saves you is the setup. So like I'm not rewriting this every time I do a project. I already have a set number of variables I use for everything. So I already have these set up, and honestly, I use something called open props to generate a lot of this stuff. So I'm not even manually writing this out like I'm here. Then the only thing you're doing is writing display grid. Well, the biggest change there is I have to write display grid instead of grid. And yes, I have to name things, but usually I'm writing these in components. And because I write a lot of Astro, those components are already self-styled. So it's not like I'm actually writing that much more, and everything stays together with the component. So to me, that gives you way more control. If I haven't come back to a project in a long time, for those kinds of projects that I touch like 3 times a year, I will use Tailwind just because I don't have to remember my scheming system. But because I use a consistent one everywhere, it's honestly not that hard to set this up once, and then you basically get to use it everywhere. So it's like you create your own little custom Tailwind that you then have tons and tons of control over. So anyhow, all right, place content center. Yeah, because this, you can do this in a couple ways. But place content center will actually put it down, or put it in the middle, but none of these are going to change until you say min height is 100 view height. And then it will actually put it down in the center. But you could do the same thing here, and it should do the exact same thing in this use case. So it's actually this piece that's the important piece. So now what we want to do is when we click this, have something happen. But let's first of all go ahead and do a couple of things. Let's add a hover style. And it doesn't look like the syntax is supported, but it should be supported, I think, in the browser. So if I change the background color here, this is one of the advantages of setting up the color the way we did, because now I can just come in here and do like a 0.8 or something like that. And now when I come in here, it should hover just like that. And again, I'm getting this squiggly line because this is newer to CSS, but it is actually working. So that should be just fine. So you can see I'm actually getting some kind of feedback. We'll probably also then change around a couple other states. So I can come in here and grab the focus state like this. And by default, if I tab to this, it's going to look like that, which kind of looks nasty. So let's go ahead and set the outline color to none, or transparent. And we'll do one more here where I take the focus visible. And here I'm going to set a box shadow. And what we're going to do is create a little ring around it. So really what we're going to do is create 2 rings. So we've got the first ring right here, and then outside of that will be the next ring. So I'll probably typically make the first string the actual, or like the ring, the actual color of the text. And this is another thing you might want to think about. So here I'm setting these things manually here, but I might want to have different types of buttons. So honestly, what I would typically do is come in here and set like a local scoped variable. So we could say like background. Oh, let's see, I already have that. So we could say like button background. And for now, I'll just go ahead and set this as like a default to this. And then, and I'll show you why I'm doing this in a second. Then I'm going to set this as my var. So var like this. And that way you've got the button background being applied here. We'll do the same thing up top. So I'm going to grab this. And we'll say button color. And I'll paste that in. And then down here, we'll just grab our variable button color. All right, so what we're doing here is setting up these locally scoped ones, and that way if I were to come down here and have another style, so for instance, let's say I had another one that I said it was button, actually I think I can do it just like this. Used button, let's say like secondary or something like this. Now what I could do is all I have to do is update those variables right here, and it will update automatically for me. So I could even have like a button background and make this yellow, and then a button color and make this like green or something nasty. And now, let's see, is that working? What's this? Maybe it's just the syntax still messed up. But now if I come over here and I have a button secondary, is that what I called it? Button secondary. What am I messing up there? Spelling, maybe? This should switch over, so let's go ahead and see what's going on here. So this should have to have both of these, just in case my syntax is off. No? Button background. Let me make sure I'm not doing something wrong here. So this should set this to my button background. This should set this to my button color. inside here, I should be able to set these up. What am I messing up here? Well, just in case it's a syntax problem, let's come down this way. Button and button. Secondary. Oh, it is a syntax problem because I didn't. Okay, sorry about that. I guess I should have tested it first, but basically this needs to be and like this, so it's not a nested selector. There we go. So now you can see how you can set that up. So that way you can have lots of different buttons very easily. You kind of set these scoped values and then move on from there. And the other cool thing is, if I come down here and actually work on what we were going to do, so let's say I have a box shadow that's like 2 pixels, 0, and I don't know, 4 pixels. And we'll set this to our var of button background like this. Now, if I tab to it, you can see that color actually comes over to here as well. Obviously, that's not what I want it to look like, but so anyhow, that's probably how I would set this up if I was actually doing this for real, but none of this is actually even in the design, so we should probably just get back to what we're supposed to be doing. But I don't know. I always find, like, especially when you're learning and you're testing yourself, not only should you try to do a project exactly as it is, but you should also add to it like this, and that way you're thinking outside of just what you're told to do, and you're really kind of being creative and forcing yourself to think through other things. So anyhow, that's another thing to think about. Let's go ahead and actually just get rid of this for now so we can see the box shadow without having to have it tabbed to. Because now what I want to do is set this box shadow. Let's see, let's just move it up here. No, it's fine. I think it's just again, a syntax thing. Not supporting that quite yet. But so what we're going to do is we want this to actually be 0 for all of these. So I don't want it to move in any direction. I'm just going to offset it. And just so you can see what this looks like, if I came in here with like red, you can see how I'm creating this outsized kind of border around it. Now, the thing about box shadows is you can have multiples of them. So I can have another one that rings around it farther and is blue. And that's essentially what we're going to do on this tabbing, where I'm going to have the inside be the color of my text and the outside be the color of my actual background. So let's set this background here like this, var background there, and then here we'll say var background of text or color, whatever I called that. Okay, so now you can see I've got the actual ringed approach just like that. And now I can return this to just show when it's visible and being tabbed to. So now if I tab to it, it'll show it like that. I probably also then need to set the, I think this is be border to none maybe. I think that's what's showing there. What is that? Or is that the outline color? It's been a while since I've done this. So the thing is, like, just like with Tailwind, when you set up your own things, you carry them from project to project. So like, I don't build a button every single time I go do a project. Let's come over here. We'll go to focus visible. Outline color, none is not working because that's not how that works anyhow. But I have it set to transparent up top. I wonder what that little border is. You can let me know. If you see outline, okay. So focus visible does have an outline here. Okay, that's fine. So we'll just come in here and say outline color should be set to transparent. No? I'm not sure why that's showing then. Huh. Okay, well, I'm not going to worry about it right now because we got to move on. The other thing I may want to do is set up a little Lego block up here for like radiuses and stuff like that. So maybe let's do that as well. So we'll say like roundings or something. And let's just say, I guess let's just say rounded. That's fine. And honestly, I'll probably point this to one of my sizes. So size small. Outline none instead of outline color. Well, here's the thing is I don't want to remove the outline because if you're using, there's some accessibility tools where you need there to be an outline. You just want the color to be transparent so that the accessibility tool can take over, basically generate that color. So I'm sure that would work if I just came in here and said outline none on both of these. Let's see. but I think then we'd have, yeah, so that does work. So it must be something to do with the accessibility. I bet if I just set the outline width to like 0, I think, I could be wrong, but I think the accessibility tool can then override that. So maybe that's what we should do. Where were we? Okay, so we could use this like rounded right here for the button as well. So let's also do that. Border radius of our rounded. And now it'll have a slight rounding, maybe, very slight. So let's come back up top here. Maybe let's increase this a touch. I'm getting lost. All right, there we go. Well, that's because that's not how you write that. Okay, so there we go. And now the box shadow should have the same thing. One final touch on this fake element we're not even supposed to be building, and that would be, let's have a transition here. And again, you can set these up to where they're variables, so you're not constantly choosing these each time. You're just choosing between your variables. You can see how this is literally all variables all the way down, which is why I like something like OpenProps, because it does a lot of the heavy lifting for you when you're setting this up. But we could have some like transitions or something. So we could have a transition speed, and we could say like 200 milliseconds, and we could call this like slow or something like that, and we could have fast and make this like 100 milliseconds. And we could do the same thing with like cubic Bezier curves or things like that. So I could say TEs, and we could do slow would just be ease in, out. And we do the same thing and do fast. And here we pick like a cubic Bezier curve, and I'm not going to write that out by scratch. We'll just create one here in a second. So let's come down here and this transition. Now we can grab our T speed, and we'll do slow. And then as far as what we're going to do it on, let's just do it on the box shadow. And then for now, we'll just do ease. So now I should be able to come in here, and you can see how now it slowly kind of pulls up like that. So probably I want this to be fast, honestly, but just to make sure you could see it. There you go. So see how it tabs to that. And then if I want to, I can adjust this here and so that I don't have to like create it myself. We can do something like that. And then grab this and set this up here. And we really probably should get to the actual project since that's what we're supposed to be doing, but look at all the fun we're having instead. All right, so now it kind of snaps up a little bit more if I were to use that. So let's go ahead and use that, the T's, E's. So that's what it looks like now. Now I should be able to come in here and do this T's, E's fast. So again, this is what it looks like without it. See the massive difference. It's a little difference. Maybe it's honestly too fast. So let's slow this down so that we can get the effect. Yeah, so it kind of snaps up a little bit more. I don't know. Anyhow, not a huge deal. I guess we could also do the same thing here on the background color. So maybe let's do it on everything. And that way you get it when you hover as well. It's kind of a little delayed there, but that's fine. Okay, so we've set up some of the CSS, kind of thought through this in variables. Honestly, I'd probably do the same thing here for the sizes. I'd come in here and do var size small or something like that. And here, do var size medium. And that way everything just kind of adjusts automatically. The other thing you can do here is just do M's. So honestly, if I was building this out, maybe I would just do M's, and that way it adjusts with the font size. So if I happen to change the font size on this, that might be way too big. Yeah, we could have it adjust with it. So 0.7 M. I mean, still kind of big. 0.2 M and 0.4 M. There we go. All right, and that way if I came in here and I did change the size of the actual text, so I don't actually have a size on here yet, but if I said font size, var font size, like, I don't know, 2XL, something crazy, you can see how the entire thing adjusts to it. And honestly, that probably makes more sense too for the actual padding. So this is the only time I really use M's, but to come in here for each of these, and honestly kind of the rounding too, let's just go ahead and rewrite everything where we're at it. So we'll say like 0.5 M and 0.8 M. This is going to be too big. No, that's all right. And then we'll say like 0.2 M. And that way it adjusts as I change the font size. So if I come in here to XL, now you can see how it just adjusts automatically for us. So not bad for a button we're not supposed to be writing. All right, so let's go ahead and grab this in our HTML and add an ID on here of like view settings or something like that. And then we're going to use this over in our JavaScript. So I'll say like settings button equals document.query selector. I'll grab the ID of view settings, and then we'll just say settings button dot add event listener. And then what we want to do is let's go ahead and just console log the event just so you can see what we're getting. And maybe let's just grab the e.target. Current target works. Current target. Target, not current color. Okay. Oh boy. Let's come in here and click on this. Add event listener. This is not how event listeners go. Let's do click. Goodness. All right, there we go. So now I'm actually getting the button. You can see that there. So what I want to check is if it, well, what I want to do is toggle the actual modal as well. So I need access to the modal since we've created it as a modal or as a dialog. So let's give this like a ID of like dialog settings. And we'll do the same thing here. If you haven't used these dialogues, they are pretty cool. They're not quite ready, I don't think, for like production, but settings modal, settings modal, like that. So what we can do is just say settings modal dot show modal, I think is the method. And this just comes by default. So I should be able to click this and yeah, it shows it. So that's what we're wanting. We need some kind of close thing as well. So probably what I need to do is say if settings, let's do this. So when this shows, notice over here, this, get out of here. This right here has the open attribute on it right here. So I could say, I could do a check on this. So settings modal.has attribute of open. If that's the case, then I'm going to go ahead and let's see. Let's make this a little easier to see. Let me move this down like this. So if it has the attribute of open, what we want to do is use the close method and it will close it. Otherwise, we're going to use the show method, show modal method there. So click there. I don't think it'll actually let me click. So what this does is it puts it on its own little layer, which is somewhere. It's hard to see because the way this code is injected here, but wherever this is, it puts it on its own layer, and that way it's basically above the entire rest of the body, and the rest of the body actually has an inert attribute on it, so I can't even tap to any of those things, which is kind of the beauty of the modal dialog. So I guess we would never need to close it here. We'd always just need to show it. So forget this, but we're going to use the close method inside this settings button as well. So let's go ahead and do that real fast. Let's create a second button here, and let's just put it at the bottom, I guess, down here. And we'll call this like close settings. And we can just say like close. I guess settings is fine. Okay. So close settings, we're going to do the same thing. And then what we want to do is we'll say like show settings button. And that's what we'll do here. And this will be close settings button. This will be close. I think it was settings, so I should just let that alone. So now we can do the exact same thing here, except we're going to use the close settings button, and on click, we're going to close. So the way this should work is you click here, that works. You click here, it closes it. And the other cool thing is if you tab and you tab, it should, it's not for whatever reason, it should actually select on this. I might need to add an extra attribute that I'm not remembering right now, but anyhow, a nice little way to get a modal. Obviously, we need to style that modal and get it actually in the center. So that comes in our styling here in a second. All right, I think that's mostly it. Let's probably get back to the actual challenge, since that's what we're supposed to be doing. So you can see here's our actual settings. We never worked on that. First thing I want to do, though, is take this dialog settings here. let's just give this a class of like, I don't know, dialogue. That's fine. We'll just use dialogue settings again. Let's come down this way, and we're going to have our dialogue section down here. So you'll notice the reason, even though I'm like clicking this and everything is in the middle of the body, because it pulls it out of the flow, it's above all of that. It's not going to be display content center or whatever like we have our other stuff. So yeah, I missed the click event. Sorry, I missed your comment a while ago too. And because of the delay, I probably wouldn't have got it anyhow. So dialogue settings, here what we want to do is we want to see, how do we want to do this? Let's just go ahead and right now, let's just make sure that I don't have any kind of dark mode set on this. No, I don't. Okay. Let me switch my machine just to the light mode, and that way we get it how it's supposed to look in the actual thing. We'll go from there. So first thing I'm going to do here is set this to display of grid, and that will, I guess, automatically put it in the middle anyhow. So maybe now we just do place content center. Actually, I think it's items center because it's the entire thing, maybe. I'll need to think through that. But the other thing we want to do is we want to space these things out. So if I switch back over here, we're looking for the spacing here, and the spacing here. So what this is, I don't know because I don't have the file. I didn't grab it. But let's do something like grid large. And that way it's kind of spaced out evenly between these. So see that right there. So that should work. The other thing, let's go ahead and add some padding. And here I am going to use my sizes here. Let's do like large. Maybe we just do the same thing all the way around. Let's say border radius. We'll do rounded. Let's see how that looks. Versus, yeah, that's pretty close. Border will be none. And we will do a box shadow though. So let's do box shadow. Now this might be something that I set up honestly as a variable as well. So let's maybe say shadow. We'll just call that our default shadow. And if I come back up this way, let's say some shadows. So these are like all our little building blocks. And usually I would import this using, what is it? CSS import. It's what is it called? It's an extension for whatever that CSS thing is. I can't think of right now. But basically it imports it in a fast way rather than our normal standard CSS import, which stinks. Shadow. What is this going to be? We'll do like 2 pixels. Yeah, I think we'll just use pixels. Maybe 2 pixels. And then for the blur, I want this to be pretty big, so we'll do 10 pixels. And then here I'll do something like the text muted. It might be a little too intense, so let's do like 1 pixels and see what that does. Ugh, I wrapped this twice. Again. All right. How about that? And let's see, that's right? Yeah, okay. So now let's go back to our 10 pixels. So we might actually need to reduce the opacity here as well. So that's where this comes in handy. Now I can just do something like that and that should work. Okay, back down here, let's also set a width, be 100%, and then max width would be like 320 pixels, something like that. I think that'll work. Now, the way that this is set up is it's all inside this container. Let's see, it might be a little weird the way that this is going to be. And now this is also showing automatically. Which is a little odd. I'm not sure why that's happening now. Did I change something? Dialogue. I did give this a class, but that shouldn't exactly change it. So maybe I just need to say on open. Maybe that's what's messing it up. All right, there we go. So on open, this backdrop here, you see how this is like setting this whole thing apart, and it's in its own little layer here. That's some of the magic of using this settings. It's in this top layer right here. So this whole top layer is separate from everything else. And so we can kind of fix where this is at in a couple different ways, but I'm trying to think how I want to do this. So I think I should be able to set it like this. Yeah, there we go. And then is this really what I want to do? Let's do like this. Oh, I had some help and then it disappeared. So I'm trying to remember how this layer works now that I think about it. Because I'm just setting this kind of dialog area. Do I just have to set margin inline of auto maybe? Yeah, there we go. Okay, that's all I had to do. All right. So there we go. Now if I return this to the open state, now I should be able to click this and it opens up. Now, maybe if I just set this to margin auto, because I think it'll be off the sides of everything. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Trying to remember how to do that. All right, so now I can close it and open it. And for having a dialog we weren't even supposed to see, I'm all right with that. That looks pretty good. Okay, other things we need to do. Let's actually start styling it as we're supposed to. So the way I typically set these up is I'll have a class here of H2 or H1 or whatever the size needs to be. And let's go ahead and set up like a typography section. And by doing an H2 class, it allows me to have semantic tags or whatever I want and have the sizes of the text be what I need them to be. So I could do like font size here of our font size, I don't know, large, something like that. And let's go ahead and remove this like this, just so we can see it at all times. So settings, something like that. And again, we're mostly focusing on thinking, not on setting this up like word, picture perfect. I don't know what this is. Maybe this is like Merriweather. I think that might be what that font is, but we're not going to worry about it. Dark mode, that should all work. Okay, so now we're working on these toggles next. Font size, we should probably also have a line height here of like 1.1. Again, I'd probably set a CSS variable up for this, but just to kind of keep stuff where it's at, I'll leave that alone. Same thing with this max width. So basically, if you're used to writing something like Tailwind, or if you're used to writing like hard-coded CSS values, having all these things built out ahead of time means you're not choosing when you're writing. You're just choosing between like your different font sizes, which also means it's really easy to change and update. And if anything in your site updates, all you have to do is come in here and say like font size is now 20 or whatever, and then everything immediately adjusts, to change for that. What was that? The size is 2x small. I don't even think I used that anywhere, but you can see the benefit of using something like that. Okay, back down this way. We should probably also set a font size on the body while we're at it. So we'll say var size medium. Maybe we bump that up a touch. Large. I think that'll work. And remember, because it's clamp, as we get smaller, it should get smaller. As we get bigger, it actually grows. And you can see how that settings heading is growing there. So we probably want the same thing here for the H3s. So this H3, maybe I'd have this then be like 2XL or just XL. And I wasn't super consistent in how I name these variables either, so that's another thing you want to do. But just that would be round 2 is where I go back and change all those things out. All right, so now back over this way, we've got the H2, and I think I had an H3 down here. Yeah, so we'll have a class of H3. Come on. And that would show there. Same thing here, class of H3. That looks a little big for that, so I don't know, maybe we back that off a touch. And again, it's kind of nice that I can just come in here and just change it out here and everything adjusts. Okay, I think that should work. Let's now think through the actual groupings of these things. So you can see how these are all about evenly spaced as these are too. So we can have this kind of be its own little section here. Maybe we just add some padding or margin up top. So all of these, we can create these little grid sections. So what I'll do next is create some like grid and flex. I don't know, sections or utils. How about that? So the way I would set this up typically is I'd say like this would be grid of small, and then I have display grid. And if I was going to set all this up, I'd either have it already written out or I'd use something like Sass to generate this. Gap var size of small. So just like that for basically everything. So the nice thing is I can just copy this down and like this, grab all these. These would be mediums and these would be larges. This is extra large and this is 2XL. I don't know that we need any of those, honestly, but now I can come in here and do the same thing and just do the same thing for flexes where I'm at right here. So I just have to hit Command D multiple times and change these all to flex. And now basically I've got all these utilities set up and ready to go. That means that I can come in here and on these, I can kind of group these together. So I could wrap these. I don't know if it's going to let me. Yeah, it will. No, it won't. Okay. Good thing I copied it. I could wrap these in a div here. And this div here would have something like grid small maybe. And if I move over this way, it should stack these things up. And I can change these to like grid extra large. And you should see difference, isn't that right? Grid. Double X, yeah, var size. Let's make sure. Okay, so yeah, that should work. Okay, so if I come in here and do like 2XL, this is being spaced out like crazy. So basically we can now use this little utility class everywhere and space everything out the same exact distance. So it looks like I did actually have one here. So class, oops, like that. So those will be spaced out the proper amount. I'll do one more down this way. Let's see, I guess I'm going to need to grab all of this, I think like that, right? And we'll say grid small maybe, I think is what it was. Like that. So those are all spaced out. Now here's the thing, because I have these wrappers, I can actually just do the same thing here and separate out the heading from the rest of this with another one. So we could say grid, and I'm guessing this is something like large. Maybe that's a little big, grid medium. And so I can just grab all these like that and do the same thing. I don't think this top one had any. So that little utility is really, really helpful in this instance. Now the other thing I want to do here is space out these internal sections. And here I can just do flex. Honestly, it doesn't really matter which one I choose. So we could say flex, I don't know. We could do large, something like that for each of these. And I'll just grab this here again. And this will set these next to each other. Now I do need to have some kind of like justify content or whatever, space between kind of thing. But because these are going to be very specific just for these labels or these, you know, these checkboxes, I think I'm just going to do like checkbox wrapper like this. So we can come in here and do a checkbox wrapper and checkbox wrapper. Okay, so now we can use that to space out the rest of this stuff. So let's come down here and we'll do like inputs or something like that. Here we'll have our checkbox wrapper, and this will just be justify content space between. If I was going to do this, honestly, I'd probably also just use display flex here as well, and then gap of var size, I don't know, large. And that way I'm only putting that on it. So that's honestly what I would probably do. So let's just do it like that. Now what we want to do is whenever this is checked, we want to enable our fake checkbox or right here to look like it's supposed to look. So first of all, what we need to do is have a class on this of like checkbox, and we'll just do that for each of these. And same thing here. All right, so we're going to create a little fake checkbox. So let's go ahead and do that, and I guess it'll just stack it right now, but I think that'll be fine. So let's grab our checkbox. We're going to use some pseudo elements just to make it a little bit easier on us. So that we can see what's going on here, let's we'll probably, honestly, I'll set like a width variable here, and I think I'll just hard code this. So we do like I don't know, that's probably what, 20 pixels. And then we'll do a height, and this will be calculated off of this width variable. So we'll do a calc, and then we'll do my var width like this, divided by 1.8, something like that. And then we'll set the width to my var of width, and my height to var of height. Let's go ahead and set a background color so we can see it here in a second. So this will be my muted, I think. And again, I need to wrap this in HSL like that. Okay, so if I come back and show it, now you should see it showing up right there. So here's the advantage. Since that wasn't quite right, probably needs to be a little bit bigger, I can just change this here and the entire thing just adjusts for me. So this is the one little control for the entire checkbox, and I'm going to use that to set up everything else. So everything will be calculated off of this width. Okay, so let's go ahead and calculate some other things. I'm going to need a border radius as well. So let's come back up to the top here, and we'll have a rounded full. Typically, I like to do double dashes here. I haven't been super consistent. I think some of these, like these font sizes, what is this? Half of them are, half of them aren't. Those are all doubles. So really the only one I'm having problems with is these font sizes. So maybe I should just go ahead and add them in here. So let's do that. Just so we're consistent. Rounded small, shadow, that was all fine. Okay. So we'll do font size. This is large. That's probably why that wasn't applying earlier. Font size. Should be another one there. Another one there. Okay. Now I think we're set. Yep. Okay. All right. Back to our checkbox here then. Did I already do my rounded full? Sorry. Rounded full, never finished this. 100 V max. 100 V max means take either the width or the height, whatever is bigger, and round it off of that. So it guarantees you always have a perfect circle or an ellipse or like an oval in this case. So border radius, var rounded full, and now they should be rounded. All right, let's check the design. That looks pretty good to me. Now we need that little toggle thing in the middle. So we're going to use an after pseudo element, or you could use it before too. After. We need to set content to nothing. That way we can use it. And then we can set the height and width of this basically calculated off of the height and width up above. So let's actually grab this right here. And we'll say the height here has to be 2. And we'll say the same thing. Yeah, that should work. And then we'll say the width here's the same as well. So now if I toggle this back and forth, and we set a background color here, a var, what was this? Text, I think was all. This should, there we go. Should be working, maybe. Let's go ahead and just pull it out here in case it's a syntax problem. Checkbox after content, background color with height. So this should pull off this calculation, this calculated width. But again, let's just make sure I'm not doing something wrong. We'll say 20 pixels, and let's just say red in case I was doing something wrong there. No. Z index 10 in case it's just behind it. Not sure what I'm doing wrong there. Let me know if you could see. Content is nothing. Let's just double check that something is showing up. Best book to study Java language. I don't know because I don't know Java. Sorry. So let's come in here and see what we're getting on our little fake checkbox here. After. What is the matter with this? Inline. Aha. There we go. So rounded what am I looking at now? Border radius, let's just steal this. And that would be this right here. And let's go ahead and pop this thing up here as well, just to kind of keep it consistent since we were using that more modern syntax. Let's actually increase these just a touch, like 2.2. Now I'm not exactly sure what these are, so let's see if I can. So it looks like it's basically 18 pixels. So if I go 2 pixels down off the bottom, but again, I can calculate all of this if I want to. So this would be position of absolute. And by default, these after pseudo elements are scoped to their parent, so you don't have to do position relative up top here. Somehow I just figured that out like a couple weeks ago because I didn't set it and it worked, and I was like, wait a second. Yeah, so I do have to do position absolute for that, but HTML language, I don't know because I've never studied a book. Sorry. I would just honestly build out little projects like this. You can look at like MDM docs. There's a really good like free code camp like starter guide to HTML. So that's where I would start if I were you. But all right, let's see what else we got here. I want to set this off from the left, and this is when it's not checked. So we're going to start with it on the left. And here I'm going to take again a calculation here. So this will be a little bit hacky, but we're just going to figure out whatever this happens to be. I think this does it to its parent, so maybe I do need position relative. Yeah, there we go. So I guess I do. So scratch that thing I learned 2 weeks ago. Evidently, it's not correct. We'll go calc left will be something like that, and we'll do top. Actually, will be top will be 50%. All right, so it'll start there. And then what we're going to do is transition, transform, translate Y. I'll do negative 50%. Something like that. So you can see how that's basically in the center. Maybe I want to move this off a little bit more. So that should be just about right. I mean, that looks pretty good to me. Now I think we're at the wrong color. So yeah, I need to change this background here to my background. And then it will have a border here. And we'll use our size again here too. Maybe like extra small or 2x small. Solid. And then I'll use my HSL of background text. I think text muted. Let's check that out. Maybe I just had an extra small. Nope, I had a double dash. So that might be a little bit too big still. So let's just do 1 pixel, and I think that'll be fine. Or to make it more flexible, now let's just do 1 pixel. All right, so everything is basically calculated off this one value. So the nice thing here is I can change this to like 80 and everything should adjust, except for this one border pixel, but I'm gonna be fine with it. I guess we could do like 0.05 em, maybe 0.1 em, something like that. And then if I change this down to 40, it's now too big, so 0.05 em, something like that. I think that's fine. All right, that way this really does adjust everything entirely. So super nice to kind of get everything based off of that one calculation. I change this thing, the entire thing updates. What that means is you can have a checkbox small and a checkbox large, and all you have to do is change this one thing. And what you would do is come down here and have like a checkbox like large, and all you do is change this to something like 80. And then if I came over here, how did I have that large? Checkbox, where are we at? Right here. So I could say checkbox large, and now that one's huge. But you see how it all like scopes exactly as it's supposed to. And I'm sure you could get like a little bit more precise with the math than just kind of randomly guessing like 14, or whatever here. But to me, that's close enough to the eye, and that's kind of all that matters. Now what we want to do is when it's checked, when this one is checked right here, I want to adjust this fake checkbox. So what I need to do then is grab my actual checkbox. So let's grab the type of checkbox. And when that's checked, so checked like this, then I want to adjust the sibling next to it that has the checkbox class. And for that, I actually just want to affect the after. So hopefully this makes sense. We're checking, grabbing each checkbox, that's this right here, and saying if it's checked, if it's checked, get me the sibling, that's the checkbox, and get me its after pseudo element. And then all we have to do is basically transform. We're going to translate this in 3D just to engage the GPU. And we'll move this over like 100%. And then this needs to be negative 50% for the Y direction, just so we don't lose this transformation here. So now when I check this, something amazing should happen. Translate 3D. Let's just double check that I'm actually getting the right thing here. So let's say like after should be background color of red. Okay, so I am selecting that properly. That's good. Oh, I think it's this left. I gotta also move. Can I transform? Let's see. I don't remember. So we'll set it like that. We'll do left of auto. And now when I check this, it should move over, but I don't know if I can. Let's see. Transition. I don't think you can do left. Let's see. 200 milliseconds ease. No. Okay. So we will transition on the transform property. And yeah, I think that should work. On the transform property, we'll do our var transition speed. Slow. And we'll do our var transition ease fast. All right, then what we'll do is, I think we can leave these alone. Transition, translate. That should do left, I think. And what am I messing up here? Transition, transform. Goodness. Transform. There we go. So now it kind of slides back and forth. So on this translate here, though, what I need to do is actually calculate off the edge. So we're going to say this needs to be calculated. And what I need is 100% minus all this mess. And I don't think I have to do a double calc here because I'm already in a calc. So, or 100% minus whatever this is. And that should pull it right off the side. No? I wrapped it a little too early. Okay. Yeah, so there it should be the exact same distance on each side. So now we've got this fake checkbox that for any of these will actually check it that direction. Now I need to check if there's an actual toggle state. Okay, so the other thing we need to do then is set the background color here. And maybe we just take both of these. And we're going to change this to text. And we'll change this to text as well. And let's move this back over here. Yeah, there we go. Only thing we need to do then is change this as well to include the color. So also use the color, or background color, I guess. Sure, that works. Okay, so we've got that set up and ready to go. Last thing is I just need to hide the type of checkbox. So here we're going to say opacity is 0. And then I guess we could also, so the nice thing is because the label is tied to the checkbox, clicking this or clicking this should also work. But probably what I want to do is set this to be a position absolute so I can click anywhere kind of on this row. I think that's what I want to do. So let's do that. Checkbox wrapper. Let's make this thing position relative, and then we'll make the actual checkbox position absolute, and it will fill that entire space. I think that's what I'll do. So we'll say position of relative here, and then here we'll say position absolute. And you can use the inset property to make it go basically the full size. So now if I click anywhere in here, it basically checks it. Now here, I'm going to try to click and it's not going to let me. So I need to come in here to the fake checkbox and set my pointer events to none. There you go. Last thing, we probably should have some kind of like state, so when we're selected on or tabbed to the checkbox that we can actually see what's going on. So let's change that as well. So let's come in here. Should I try to nest all this? Probably not. Will I? Sure. So let's say the focus state here. This is going to get confusing if I try to do it in here, I think. So let me come in here and just say that if this is focused, then I want to grab the checkbox, not the checkbox afterwards. And we'll say if this is focus visible, I want to grab the sibling checkbox, and I'm going to add something very similar that we did to our button. Where's my button? So let's go ahead and grab this. I think that should work. And we'll come back to our checkbox. And add that to it. So now if I, no, is that not working? Focus visible. Then I want to grab the checkbox. Oops. And around the checkbox, I want to put this box shadow. Is that what I want to do? I think so. So I should be able to tab through these settings. Okay, so it's not working. Let me just double check. Oh, it doesn't need to be checked. The type of checkbox needs focus visible. Let's just say hover just to see. Then I'm going to just say background color is like red. Okay, so that's working. So it's something to do with this box shadow. Box shadow. Maybe it's this M. Because I don't have like a special. Let's just do something like that and see what that does. After relative. Let's go ahead and apply this here and see what's going on. Can I not see? Okay. So let's grab this right here. And what I want it to know is if this is focus visible, right? So this should be focused, which means I want to take the checkbox and I want to add when this is focus visible, I'm saying I want to take its sibling. Oh no, I did it on hover now. Focus visible. Let's try this again. When in doubt, just use the dev tools because you're probably missing something stupid. Focus visible means this should now be getting button color. Oh, it's because the button color is not there. All right, no wonder. So here, like I said, usually something stupid. Let's do the background. Actually, let's do that muted color, I think. Yeah. And then here we're going to do the actual. Here we'll do muted. No, here we'll do text, and here we'll do background. All right. There we go. So just a small problem. So now when I tab to this, maybe there, it's way too big, but we are kind of getting the effect we were hoping for. So this would be 0.2 M. Since I changed that, so you could easily see. There we go. So now I can just toggle these, and it looks like I'm actually selecting a real toggle, whereas what I'm actually selecting is, you know, a fake. Or like I'm selecting the checkbox behind the scenes, but it looks like I'm actually selecting the toggle here. So anyhow, that's all we were trying to do. Probably also want to set, I don't know, I kind of feel like, should this be like a clicker button kind of thing? I think so. So let's also come in here and change the cursor to pointer. So that way if I come over here, oh, you know what? I have pointer events to none, so I can't do that. It's not a huge deal. I could do it on this ideally, or I guess, but then that would, I guess that indicates though that anywhere you click, so maybe that is the right thing to do. So there we go. Now, since we went ahead and set up the stuff for the dark mode anyhow, maybe we should also just grab all these and set up some JS for all this as well. So let's grab all these checkbox input type of checkboxes. Actually, let's just grab this one right here, this theme. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. So let's grab this, and we'll have the theme toggle. And we'll set this theme. And we'll just say whenever we toggle the theme, so theme toggle.add event listener, whenever we click on this, let's go ahead and grab the event. Because what we need to know is if it's checked or not, right? So just to see what we're getting here, just so you can see, if I come in here and I click, not that, but this one, I should get a bunch of things about this pointer event. I guess I should have grabbed the target, but we can just drill down here. So there's all these different things. Checked is what we're interested in. Is this checked or is it not checked? So we can check that each time. So we can honestly probably just destructure it. So checked, or maybe we should just do is checked. How about that? Equals e dot current target dot what was that? Checked, I think. So this should give us this each time. So now what we can do is say if is checked, then that's toggling on dark mode. I want to set, let's see, I guess I don't have a way to toggle light mode. So the only thing I really need to worry about is setting the style. Yeah, so let's do this. Let's just do an if statement here. If is checked, then let's set the root here. So document element works as well. Data set. I could just set attribute too, I guess, right? Data theme equals to dark. So that's all we have to do, right? Yeah, so there, now everything toggles over to dark mode. Otherwise, so maybe let's just return out of here. Let's just do ternary. Maybe that's my React brain speaking, but I think it'll be cleaner. So if it is checked, we're going to do that. If it's not checked, then we can just remove the attribute altogether, I think. So we'll just remove attribute of data theme. Something like that. So now I can toggle this back and forth. There we go. So we set up something. Close this eventually. So remind me to remove this because this is what we need to actually make it work for reals. So now I should be able to come in here and click dark mode, close this. There we go. I mean, we could probably play with the dark mode settings a little bit, but it actually is working. Okay. So back over here, let's actually finish out the design. At some point, I'm the only one watching these things this long, but I don't know. It always helps me just to do this, like really think through all the things, add a bunch of extra stuff. So hopefully this is helpful to somebody as well. But this is what I do for fun, like when I'm trying to test myself anyhow. And even though this is like a more beginner actual setting, you can make it fun by adding a bunch of extra stuff. All right. Newest on top. So these little toggle things, I guess I could just style these, but they're not always like the easiest to style. So since we already have our fake things going on, let's just keep it going. So we've got this radio. I guess for each of these, let's just go ahead and for all of these at the same time, let's add class radio. And then we're going to have class radio wrapper. And we'll kind of do the same thing. So let's grab our checkbox wrapper. Come down this way. And we've got a radio wrapper. Somehow I only have one space there where I probably need two for all of these. Okay. Flex between. What was it supposed to look like again? So we don't need this between. And that gap can be significantly smaller. Extra small? Sure. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing where we've got a fake thing that we're going to toggle on and off. And we'll treat it the exact same way. So this will grab our type of radio. Cursor point opacity. Yeah, so that's all. But if I click that, that should show. So let's go ahead and do this for now, just to kind of get ready. Next thing I want to do is grab my fake radio, which should be this thing. So let's just move this down this way. And we'll drop this in here. Call this radio. Here we're going to do is size instead. So we'll do size is 40. And then this can be size. Size, or you can do aspect ratio too if you want to. The after and before, we'll handle this a little bit differently. But for now, I guess let's just change all these to size. And then we'll set this more like 20. Sure. Let's call that good. That's all fine. This is fine. I don't want to be able to click on it. Yeah, I think that works. Let's check the actual design. So it's got nothing basically in the middle. So by default, let's go ahead and just get this thing. Where's my... So we'll do like 1.1 maybe. And do this for both of these. This shouldn't matter there, I don't think. I don't need this. Position absolute, honestly, even. Right? This could just be... Well, no, I guess I will. We do something like that, I think. Let's zoom in a touch here. So that needs to be moved off maybe a little bit more again. You probably want to actually calculate this in some way. But I'm not going to worry about it right now. Background color, though, by default, let's set this to be transparent. And then what I'm going to do is just set the background color here to my local variable of color. Border, we're not going to have any. That's fine, that's fine. Okay, so it shouldn't show by default, which I think is what it's supposed to do. Yes, but this is supposed to be background. Right? Okay, except I need... Seems like I need to adjust some things because I don't think this color I ever set, did I? So let's come to my... Do we even have anything for this dialogue? Oh yeah, I do down here, right? So here's where I want my background color to be. My background, background like that. Okay, and then let's just go ahead and adjust that background a little bit more as well. This background light, I think this needs to be pumped up a bit. So we'll do like 9.5, at which point we might as well just do white, but we'll back this off a touch just to make ourselves feel a little bit better. And then the muted should be, maybe that's my problem. I need to set my body to the background of muted. That way there's some contrast. There we go. All right. Okay. Back to what we were doing. We need to have then a border on this right here. So let's come back down to our radio border. We'll do like 0.05 M solid, and we'll do text muted, I think. There we go. So now all we have to do is handle let's set this first of all like red. Let's handle the check, but first of all let's get this thing in the right spot. So that should be showing somewhere. HSL color. Why is this not showing? Okay, so maybe let's bump this down to here because it must be. Oh, I have this wrapped. All right, there we go. So let's make sure this thing is in the middle. And there are definitely better ways to do this, but let's go ahead and just calculate the same on both of these and get rid of that. And that way we can just adjust this and get this in the middle. And we could do math, or hear me out, we could just guess over and over again until we're happy like that. So you tell me what you prefer and you can do whatever that is. But that's what I'm going to do. Let's actually change this up and then we get to do more math guessing. 16, 15, 14. Oh, we're getting somewhere. 13. I was happier earlier. Let's just go back and call it good. Come on. There we go. Okay, so that's what it will look like eventually. Right now, let's go back to transparent. Transparent. The only thing I need to change then is on the background color. Like that. And we can get rid of this here. All right, so we need to do the same thing we did up top here where we have this kind of fake check idea. So let's grab both of these here. We're just going to say a type of radio. So let's do the same thing here. So when I check this, it should check that, right? And then if I check this one, I just need to set these all so they actually work properly, but it is actually showing, so that's good. Yeah, so now all we have to do is hide this again. Oh, not like that, like this. And now I can just check any of these and they should show. It's not, it still doesn't seem quite right in there, but you know, whatever. I'm gonna regret this. Yeah, okay. Let's just not worry about it. We're gonna call that good. Okay, I think that is good. I mean, that's really all we had to do. I guess we also have, we should probably come over here and actually set these all to the same. What is the other thing I need here? I forget what you do for those. Radio, button, HTML. These are the kinds of things that like, you never do enough to remember. ID, it's type of radio value. It's the value I need to change. The name should be the same for all these. Okay. So for all these, let's change all these names here to values. And then we'll have a name that for this first one will be like conversation view. For the second one will be reading panel. All right, so now I should be only check one of these at a time and it should just kind of switch between them. So you can also handle those like a different way where you have like a sliding element that moves, but I think that's fine for me. Anything else I want to do here? I guess we've got the view settings, and then at some point I probably should close this stream down, but view all settings. Let's go ahead and I guess change that around too. And let's come up to our text utilities here. I'll grab all link tags, I guess. I'll set the color to my text color. And do I need to do anything else? I mean, not really. We need to add some more padding to this thing. So maybe let's set this to like 420. Let's do like 2XL. 380. And 3XL. Sure. It probably needs to be a little bit more than that, but I think that's fine by me. View all settings, close settings. So that's more or less it. I think we can come in here and show this. The other thing we could do is like change up this background. So if you grab the background backdrop pseudo element here, you can adjust this background color from the default. So I could set this as like my text, for instance, and I think I can, right? Dark mode. Can't you set this background color? Can I set this to like red or something? Yeah. So that seems slightly violent though. So let's set this text background color. Now, why is this text not working? It may be because it's in a different flow part of the document. Maybe. But we can set like HSL, I don't know, we can do like 320, 20%, and like 9%. I typically don't use the syntax that has the commas and 0.2, something like that. So it should be like slightly darker there. I can improve this, I guess, make it darker still. So that's one thing you could do. 243. All right, so we're basically done at this point. Let's do two more things just because why not? We're already having fun. This should probably be changed around some. So let's do three more things. So let's mark out our three things we're going to do. I'm not sure why, but we'll do it in the CSS file. To do. What are we doing? Update dark mode to not suck. Number 2. Handle. What do I want to do? I want to show. We've already handled dark mode. Close settings. What else was it that I wanted to do? I had something else beyond what I was going to show you how to like grab the form inputs from all these things, but we're not submitting a form, so that doesn't really make sense. I don't know. If I think of something else, we'll do that. So let's just start with dark mode so it doesn't suck. And again, let's come down here and just show this so that we can see it. And then we'll go to dark mode. Actually, let's just change my machine to dark mode. That way it doesn't have to remember the settings. Oh, maybe I was gonna... Whoa. Maybe I was going to handle loading state. So it could actually load from your local storage and like remember your dark mode. I think maybe that was the other thing I was going to do. I don't remember anyhow. Let's come in here. So this text leaves a little bit to be desired. So it should be the text dark that we're changing, right? So if I come in here and change this to like 25, 45. So this text isn't actually being used. So that's probably the other thing I need to do here. Let's grab this and make sure that this is using my text. Okay. Now we can adjust it. So let's come over here and we'll say text of like, we can do something more like that. The background color probably is what needs to change more. 45. So if we do that, then we can bump this thing back up. Yeah, let's do that. That passes contrast. Okay, good. What else do we want to do? I think some of these things are slightly off because I'm zoomed in. Yeah, I'm going to have to change those around. That's going to drive me insane. That should work. That background I still don't love, so let's come in here. Whoa. I don't know. Let's say that's fine. So right now my dark mode on my machine is overriding this. There's light mode, which hurts. There we go. So now it's transitioning between those two. Okay, so we're going to call that not totally sucking, in which case we have totally finished this. Handle the loading state. So what I was thinking is we could store this since we're already like way extra beyond what we're supposed to be doing here. I was thinking we could just store this setting of whether or not it's open in the local storage, assuming we can access local storage. So what we're going to do is local, number one, we have to save the preference to local storage. Number two, load preference on page load. Number three, update toggle state based on preference, something like that. Yep, we're going to save to local storage. So let's do right here is checked. Each time they click it, well, let's first of all, yeah, let's just save it first of all. So we're going to do set local storage dot set item. We'll do is dark mode, and we will set this to is checked. All right, so that way if it's true, then it's true. If it's false, then it's false. So let's just double check that we actually have access to it in this program. Local storage right here. So if I check this, is dark mode true? Okay, cool. So we do have access to it. So now what we can do is number two, load it. So we'll say window.add event listener, DOM content loaded. Now what I want to do is get the item from local storage. So get item is dark mode. Now this is going to return true or false, like the actual string. But now what I can do is just set the theme toggle. That was my theme, yeah. Theme toggle dot checked state equals, if it is dark, is the string true, like that, right? So we're going to check if it is the string of true. We also need to handle this a little bit differently. Yeah, I think that's fine. If it's a string of true, then we want to say that this is true. It should be checked. Otherwise, it will be false. So this both gets it. We did 2 halfway, and then we went to 3. So let's come back to here and say document element. So maybe let's just do this. Yeah. So we'll just say if is dark. Let's do 2 things in here. First of all, we're going to set the document element set attribute to that. The other thing we'll do is set this to true. And then we need to do an actual check here. Since this is not a Boolean, if this is equal to the string of true, then that should work. Okay, so now if I go to dark mode and I refresh, maybe. Let's see what's going on here. DOM content loaded. All right, let's just see what's going on here. So if I refresh, maybe it doesn't let you. Because I mean, it should at least do that, right? Unless I misspelled this. Is it loaded? I don't think so. Oh, maybe. Okay, so maybe that was it. Spelling evidently matters. Okay, so I think that's it. Do I need to do anything else? Honestly, I don't think anyone's going to be watching at this point anyhow, since we've just been playing around. But I do think this is really important for learning and testing your knowledge and continuing to learn. Is just like keep having fun. As soon as you're sitting there, and I know that's a luxury. Not everyone's able to do that. Like if you're trying to get a job, you're like, I'm trying to have fun, but I'm also trying to work so I can eat. I get that, but as much as you're able to, I think it's really nice to actually, just enjoy yourself and have fun. I did forget to mention that because we made these like an input type here, or these radio buttons, they're all connected. Once you're in this state, like just the standard default here is you can tab through these. Once you get here, it'll actually tab to the next grouping, or you can use your arrow keys and it automatically selects them. So that's another nice little accessibility win we get just by using the correct semantic HTML. Let's also change this up just a touch too. But yeah, I do think it's just very important to, like, I don't know, to just enjoy what you're doing and have fun with it and test yourself over and over again. Like, none of this stuff was hard, but there are a couple things I had to look up just because I don't do them all the time, and that's fine. That's just how it happened to be. Somehow this got dropped down. So anyhow, I think it's really important to test yourself, to have fun, to enjoy it. So hopefully if you got nothing else from the stream, that's what you got. Let's come up here to my A tag, wherever this is. And let's think through visually what we need. So when it's focused, then I'm going to set the outline color to transparent. And then when it's focus visible, let's see if we got that box shadow still somewhere. Color transparent. I've just lost it altogether. Button color. Oh, again, same problem. So here we're going to go background. And here we're going to go HSL. We're going to go text. Okay, so now I should be able to come down here. There we go. Let's also do border radius of rounded. And let's also do max width of fit content, which I mean, I obviously wouldn't do for every anchor tag on my whole site, but in this case, so that way it basically stays sucked around there. So anyhow, that was fun. Extremely what resources for absolute beginner JavaScript. Honestly, Wes Boss is how I learned. So I think he's got a course. At the time, he had a free section of it. I don't remember if it is like that anymore, but he does have all the text of it written out for free everywhere. So that, to me, he's the best teacher for that kind of stuff. But hey, awesome, Navik. Glad you've enjoyed the content. So yeah, I'd probably use Wes Boss if it were me, but that's what I did use. Yeah, any other questions you have before I close stuff down? I am planning some changes on the channel, and sure, I want to make sure I've got more time to work on my Astro course, which is getting along nicely, but there's still a lot to do on it to make it the way I want to make it. So I will probably move to Wes Boss. Okay, Wes Boss in chat. WESBOS. I think it's beginner JavaScript.com is the actual site where he has that, but he actually has the written out text, I think, on beginnerjavascript.com anyhow. But yeah, I'm planning on probably going down to just one video a week, which I know will probably tank the channel some, but honestly, I'd rather just make better content. So I'm coming up against the struggle of like wanting to make bigger projects, but I can't do 2 videos a week in these bigger projects because this is something I do for fun on the side. And it's mostly early mornings like this for me when I'm doing it. So I don't know. So that's kind of my thinking, is that I will go down to one project a week, but make them a little bit more involved. So for instance, like actually working with like databases and loading from the back end, and maybe getting stuff up with Supabase or Firebase, like showing how to do that kind of stuff. So I think there's some possibility there where like I can make things that are a little bit more advanced, that have more possibilities to them, or even doing like a beginner HTML course, taking an hour and a half, slowly going through beginner HTML or CSS, that kind of stuff. Whereas right now I only really have time for small project builds or like explaining a single concept. So yeah, that's my desires, to do a little bit more like that. And as I was learning more like beginner stuff, for me, it was really helpful to do smaller a little like, here's one thing I've learned. But now, like, I'm just kind of repeating a lot of the same stuff I've already been doing. So I want to say, let's extrapolate that and really make it more than what it's been. So that's kind of my thinking. However, I don't want to lose some of the contact I've had. So my plan is WebDevDaily, but I'll add a link to it in the description here in a second. Yeah, authentication, CMS, all that kind of stuff. Like, I just can't do that doing 2 videos a week right now. So that's kind of the idea. And then the podcast, I would answer one question and then I would ask you a question. So there are lots of things that, like, just being self-taught, I don't really understand how they work. And so hopefully if we get some more experienced people listening to it, I can ask a couple questions that might be clarifying and helpful, not just for me, but for everyone. So that's kind of the idea, because I don't think that'll be nearly as much time investment as like creating an entire tutorial for something. And yet it also gives me one more touching point throughout the week and another outlet to kind of share stuff in. Plus I came up with a cool website design that I wanted to build out, so I decided to make it for my podcast. So, that will probably be coming out soon, like next week or two. I will post about that. It'll probably be on a separate channel just so I don't annoy people who don't want that on this channel. Yeah. Any other questions or things you want to talk about before I call this good? This is going to annoy me to death if I don't fix this. Now that looks fine. It wasn't looking like it was in the center before, so I don't know. All right, well, I don't see anything else, so I'm going to call that good, but hopefully you enjoyed that casual stream as we worked our way through making this whole thing and adding in a bunch of stuff. And I can save this, and it should stay in dark mode. All right, well, thanks so much. I will catch you in the next one. Happy coding.